Hey everybody, I'm Francesca Maxime. This is Wise Girl. It's about 3 o'clock on Thursday, and I am in Brooklyn. It's a little rainy out. And I just wanted to do a quick video because I had just finished a really amazing interview with a shaman in Zimbabwe, Mandaza Kademwa. And there's some audio issues with it, but I hope you can enjoy it regardless. But I was talking to my mom this morning about, she asked me, how are you doing? And I said, I'm okay. I had a couple of not so great days or whatever, but then things changed and I had better days and, this and that, things were up and down and up and down. And I was sort of telling her what I'm going to try to tell you, which is that my ability to come from a different perspective in terms of not equating having the feeling of fear or jealousy or envy or frustration or sloth, sleepiness, not energized kind of feeling. My ability to kind of look at those feelings, as sensations, as things that arise and then fall away, as things that pass, as things that are impermanent, has really given me an opportunity to be in the moment in a way that I never used to know how to do. So, for example, on, I think it was Monday, today's Thursday, I'm working on my college reunion and learning all about what my really amazing classmates are doing, trying to figure out what some of them have been up to for the last X number of years, and I'm putting together a panel for speaking. But as I was going through these submissions from people that I went to college with, I found myself getting really down and feeling very jealous and feeling very envious and feeling very contracted, sort of like collapsed, almost what you would call a more depressed state, even though I wasn't in, sort of some period of prolonged depression, but it could be described as that kind of low energy, sort of like self-effacing, not so hot on yourself kind of feeling. When I was able to look at it from the outside and say, oh, right, that's just what the mind does. It thinks thoughts all the time, just like the heart pumps blood, just like the stomach digests food. And the mind, as it has this sort of thought creation machine that it's programmed to do, will often go to thoughts that may or may not be skillful, but that in creating space and recognizing them as thoughts that are not you, meaning that you're not overly identified with these thoughts, they're just things that come and go, you can give yourself a little bit of breathing room so you don't have to just go down the rabbit hole of believing that everything that you think is absolutely 100% true all the time, right? So they can be real and I can honor them like, oh yeah, that was a thought of envy. And then I can also be like, but that doesn't mean that I'm an envious, jealous, bad person or whatever story that I want to put on myself about it out of my conditioning and habit pattern from before. So that ability to be mindful, that ability to kind of swoop in and sort of say, hey, wait a minute, there's a little space here. I see you. I check out what's going on with me right now and say, okay, that's natural. That's fine. We can compare ourselves to other people and feel better than or worse than those people, or we can compare ourselves to ourselves. And then we can say, okay, well, I'm on my path. They're on their path. I don't compare my insides to other people's outsides. I only compare myself today to whoever I was yesterday, right? So that's what's in our control. That's what mindfulness is about. It's about training your own mind, looking at it objectively, being able to see clearly so that we don't get so caught up in the story of keeping up with the Joneses in this case, or whatever else it may be. So that was one thing. And then the other part that came in was this idea that, it's sort of a Buddhist principle talking about impermanence. Everything changes. Now, this we know, right? Anybody who's had children knows that the kid that you had at 2 isn't the kid that you have at 5, isn't the kid that you have at 10, et cetera, et cetera. And that we change jobs, we change apartments, the weather changes, whatever. Things change, relationships change. But the ability to be mindful is the ability to rest in the impermanence of change and almost use it as like a refuge and a trusting space. So we don't go in expecting things to just be the way we want them to be, right? We go in knowing that things are always in constant movement, and we're cultivating our ability to learn how to surf, not how to control the ocean. How foolish would that be? We're not sitting there saying, wave, you're too small, you're too big, this tide is too big, this undertow is bad. We can't change that. But we can learn how to be discerning and how to be wise about, is now the best time to try to set out on a sail or to go surfing? Or should I wait on shore? Should I seek shelter? Should I dive in? Is it friendly? Is it not? Those are the kinds of actions, skillful actions that we can take once we've really adopted a deep understanding of what they would call emptiness in Buddhist language, or impermanence, the idea that form is matter, matter is form. They talk about nothing is static. Everything is kind of a constant movement, a constant wave of whatever it is that's happening, just as we see the sun rise and then fall, and the moon comes and it goes. That's our life. So you can, I found, taking refuge in the fact that, like, hey, I don't have to control all this. This isn't my place to have to do this. I can actually let it go and know that, yes, I'm not in the most magnanimous mood right now, right? I'm a little bit feeling like, oh yeah, there's some jealous thoughts or some envious thoughts, but I have another superpower. It's one of what they call in Buddhism, the Brahma Viharas, or the humble abodes, that it's called sympathetic joy. So, for example, I had last night a meeting with somebody that went really well, and I really enjoyed talking to this person. And my girlfriend, that I was texting with this morning was like, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. This is great. That's sympathetic joy. She wasn't there at the meeting, but she has a love for me and enthusiasm for me and for my well-being. And so when I apply that to myself, when I'm looking at the way that I was feeling or kind of caught in that contracted state or that collapsed state, when I was comparing my insides to other people's outsides, when I was looking at my classmates, I say to myself, I can actually just be really happy for these people, that there's more people on the planet who are happy, doing good things, having healthy families, enjoying life, being able to be who they are. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. Their happiness and more of it doesn't take away from my happiness. There's enough happiness to go around. It's not a fixed commodity. Think about that. It's sort of like, it's like mold. It just keeps growing, right? It just sort of takes on a life of its own. There's enough happiness to go around. So when we cultivate our own well-being, our own self-care, our own joy, then we have the capacity to share in the happiness of others and not just know that there's just only this sort of small sense of self and this contracted state or this separate sense of self. And in doing that, we end up feeling more connected, and then we receive more support and connection as a consequence. Because we know when people are like, yeah, I'm really happy for you. We know when people are like that, or when they're like, I am so thrilled for you. That's amazing. We sense that energetic shift, and it really means a lot. And it means a lot in terms of the planet. Every little thing we do is just a drop in the bucket of, sort of the ocean of goodness that we're all sort of a part of. And so this sort of mindfulness in daily life scenario that I'm describing to you, it was down, and then it was up, and then it was down. And then I did another thing that positive neuroplasticity, and Rick Hansen, who's the sort of father of that I interviewed last week, that he talked about in one of the Wise Girl chats, is this idea of installing the good. Like, what's good? What can I be grateful for? What can I appreciate? I may not have certain things that these folks have, but I also know that I have other things that are really amazing that I can enjoy and bask in and really let soak in. For example, I got good news on My taxes, amazing. I got a good call about some folks in DC that may want me to do some work with them. Amazing. Like, absolutely good things that if I only let that small view, that myopic view, that fearful, contracted view take over for me the way I was feeling on Monday, and let that stay and only cling to that and think that that's all of who I am, then I'm not able to take a wider view and to take greater stock in the abundance and the goodness that's there. Because we do have a negativity bias as people. We aren't the first ones to witness and to recognize the good things that are happening, whether it's that nice hot cup of coffee in the morning, somebody just opening the door for you when you have your hands full and you're coming out of the grocery store. Every moment that we take to do just that little thing, it is planting a seed in our biology, in our soma, in our psyche, meaning up here, and in our body. We're retraining ourselves when we learn how to do this. So I just wanted to share that because it's kind of like when they talk about it being a daily practice, when you sit on the cushion in meditation and your mind is going, whoa, and it's all over the place. They call it monkey mind, swinging from limb to limb, doing its thing, whatever. The teaching is, well, that's what the mind does, right? It secretes thoughts the way that our mouth secretes saliva, but we don't have to get caught up in it. The invitation is to just return to the object of your concentration, which in a lot of the meditations that I teach is just the breath. So we're noticing the thought without getting lost in it or caught up in it. We're noticing the what's happening, but we're not really trying to get too deep into the, how is this happening? Why is this happening? There is a place for insight in terms of the why, and that usually emerges from a deeper space within, from our gut, from our, sort of core, that ends up emerging when we sit in contemplation, in meditation, and in prayer, in silence, in a more quiet space. That usually does kind of come up, these insights, these aha moments. But it's not like we're trying to figure it out. We're not using left brain, constant if this, then that. We're living in the present. We're not living in the future or in the past, which only exists as thoughts in the present moment anyway. So we're in this infinite now that as it continues to emerge, and this now, and then this now, and then this now, right? So as long as we can just stay with this now, it's gonna evolve into something else. As long as we're not stuck on something from the past or trying to lasso something in the future, we can take that surfing, that teaching of impermanence, that teaching of mudita or sympathetic joy, that teaching of really just gratitude and sort of having appreciation for life and the good things that we have, and expanding our heart, expanding our mind, expanding our view a little bit so that we don't have to get stuck in contraction and feel small and fearful, so that we can, sort of feel more connected naturally and be a part of this amazing world that we're in, despite all of its shenanigans. Okay, I'm out of here for now. Have a great weekend, and I'm going to have another amazing interview for you tomorrow, and enjoy. Take care. Bye.